I'd like to define one other thing. I got to tell you, I had a judgment call whether to get into this in earnest here in the spring of 2020. This would have compelled another 6 or 8 videos and been a really complex subject on its own. And I decided not to go there, frankly. I think under the circumstances, I'm going to treat this just a little bit more shallowly than I think I would have. However, I'm just going to ask the definition on the test. A confidence interval is an interval or range of values centered around a sample statistic, specifically a mean. The logic behind it is that a sample statistic, such as a sample mean, should be relatively near to the corresponding population parameter. Can I give you an example? Let's say we took a poll, and the poll was released on April 20th, 2020, and the question was, do you approve of President Trump's handling of the COVID crisis here in the United States? And maybe the number's 46%. So we would cite that. And how many people were polled to ask that question? It could have been as few as 1,000, right? We got a population of 332 million, and only 1,000 people answer the question. So the suggestion is the true population mean probably isn't exactly 46% approval for his performance. So what we do is build confidence interval around that. We could actually say, and the math is not too complicated, frankly, that the margin of error is plus or minus 3%. And we'd be 95% confident that that was the case, that the approval rating is 46% plus or minus 3. Therefore, I could actually say I'm 95% confident that his approval rating for the handling of the COVID virus is between 43 and 49, which is 46 plus or minus 3. Now, could it fall outside of there? Yes, but we'd like to think it's only a 5% chance it falls outside of there. So when I'm sampling samples from a population, we understand that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to represent that population perfectly. And therefore, we're going to have quote-unquote error bars around it. That error bar is defined by this idea of a confidence interval. And typically, it's 95% confident. When we have presidential elections, as we will in 2020, you'll see Biden versus Trump. It's been cleaned up now. And a poll might come out that, let's say, puts Biden ahead by 1 point on 4th of July. He's up 48-47 with the other 5% being made up by third parties or unknown or who knows. So what they could say is it's plus or minus 3. So Biden's true percentage of people that intend to vote for him are 51 to 45, whereas Trump, it goes from 50 to 44. They kind of overlap in that case, and therefore that might be comfort to the incumbent President Trump if he happens to be trailing over the summer during this race. So again, I'll just have you know the idea of a confidence interval. I felt like explaining it to some degree, but nonetheless, we just don't have the resources really to get into it. I would have dedicated probably 2 class periods to this under the normal semester, but I think we've bitten off enough. So a confidence interval is an interval or a range of values centered around a sample mean. So plus or minus this, what have you. The logic behind a confidence interval is that the sample statistic, such as the mean, should be relatively near to the corresponding population parameter. And we can sort of draw upper and lower bounds there, but quite literally for your test, I'll just have some sort of question dealing with a definition, like a multiple choice on which of these is the actual definition. So really there's nothing to worry about.